All right. Well, happy Friday, everyone. I am going to go over a lesson on one of my favorite topics, and that is effective hourly rate. If you're one of our clients or if you're in one of our peer teams, you have heard me beat this topic to death. And I've been beating it to death for 10 years now. Now, other people are talking about it, I'm sure, but this is kind of one of the hallmarks of Barry McKinley is to say, if you've got a managed services practice, if you've got some agreements out there, it's negligent of us to not know exactly what our effective hourly rate is. Now, most everyone talks a lot about agreement gross profitability, and that is critical. But we like to layer on two axes of measurements. So in this video, we're just going to talk about the effective hourly rate, and in another video, we're going to talk about agreement gross profitability, and then in a third video, we're going to get all three of those combined. So let's start with effective hourly rate here now. What I intend to do is just kind of work the math out in this Word document so you can see how it all evolves. So first of all, what is effective hourly rate? The example I like to give is if I offer to paint your fence for $100 and it takes me 2 hours to paint your fence, I made $50 an hour. If it took me 10 hours to paint your fence, I made $10 an hour. So in this analogy, painting the fence is your agreements, the IT work you do for those agreements. And the hours are still the hours. Now, what does it matter? I'm going to get paid $100. What does it matter if it takes me 10 hours or 1 hour? Well, just like in your managed services, we have to be efficient. If I can get your fence done in 2 hours instead of 8 hours, well, that means I might be able to paint 3 or 4 more fences in that same day. So I can earn $400 or $500 instead of just the $100. So if we can get efficient and increase that effective hourly rate per contract, we can handle more contracts. So let's do the math, and I'm going to show you a couple different models of doing this. So the first model is simply the agreement revenue. And I'm going to make this font a little bit smaller so we don't take up too much space here. All right. Let's do the whole thing here. And this isn't supposed to be super edited and super fancy for you. This is just kind of me thinking out loud and showing you something that I talk about a lot to people. So we take that agreement revenue and we divide it by the total hours spent. So if we had a $1,500 a month contract and it took us 10 hours, our effective hourly rate would be $150 per hour. Now, that number of $150 an hour is neither good nor bad. It's only good or bad once we layer in what we want that target to be. So if we said 1 hour of our labor is worth $125 an hour, or $150 an hour, or $200 an hour, then we have some context for that $150. So if we said normally we would charge $175 per hour, or we're trying to get $175 per hour, then we'd take 175 and divide it by 150. And that equals, I need a calculator, and that's going to be ugly, 175 divided by 150. Oopsie, 150 divided by 175, sorry. Okay, let me just redo the math on here for us. We take what we got and divide by what we want. Okay. And my calculator tells me that it's a 0.85. So we're getting 85% of our normal rate. We're getting $150 an hour, but if we were just charging for an hour of labor to somebody, we'd be getting 175, so we're getting 85%. Now, what's the target? Well, the target's that we see, and remember, Barry McKinley's been doing this a long time, 14 years to be exact, studying this with people. A really good is 1.25x. So getting 1.25 times your rack rate or your standard rate. Great is 1.5x. And world class, what we see, like especially guys that are in vertical markets, or who are really good at pricing and aggressively price, you're not going to believe me. I don't expect you to believe me until you do the math. across their whole portfolio, they're getting 3x. Now, we want to do this number on our whole portfolio, and we want to do this number on individual contracts. So every contract needs to be a standalone profit center. Now, you might begin to look at, hey, it's just we just have a backup agreement, and we put a quarter hour into it. We're getting $800, per hour. Hey, that's great, but that brings us to our second model. So if we call this Model 1, let's look at Model 2. And Model 2 is a little more aggressive. It's a little less friendly, but it's very important to know and understand. In this case, we take the agreement revenue and we subtract out our hard costs, and we divide that by the total hours spent. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to say 2,000. We're going to call it that $1,500 agreement one more time. And we got our 1,500. And let's say that we've got maybe $300 worth of expenses for our lab tech, or some backup expenses, or some antivirus expenses. We've got $300 of hard cost. That's not labor or anything like that. And then we're going to divide that by the 10 hours it took. In this case, it's going to be 1,500 minus 300 equals 1,200 divided by 10 equals $120 an hour. That's a big difference. But we call this number, that $1,200 here, we call that spendable revenue for labor. So it goes down substantially, doesn't it? And now if we do that same formula to see what our multiplier is, we go 120 divided by the 150, and let's see what we get now. So let's get that calculator back and go 120 divided by 150. Now we're down to an 80%, a 0.8. That multiplier isn't going to cut it. So what we need to do is make sure that we're pricing in such a way that we can get that 1.25 or that 1.5. Because I'll go out on a limb here and say, what's the point of doing managed services if we can't get above what our rack rate was? What's the point of doing it if we can't get more than what we were able to accomplish in our break-fix model that's supposedly so bad and awful? Is the benefit just that we get a check at the beginning of the month that we then have to spend down throughout the month paying people? That doesn't sound like a whole lot of benefit to move money from the left hand to the right hand and not keep much for ourselves. So let's watch that effective hourly rate really close. And when we do our next video, we'll talk about agreement gross profitability as well and see how these two are related. Hey, thanks for watching. And as always, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.